Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, July 9, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The Salvation Army has been burglarized, and administrators say thousands of dollars in cash was stolen, but relief supplies for the less fortunate were left untouched. We hear more in this report.
The police are investigating a report of burglary at the Salvation Army. The organization's administrator, Major Ernest Gashlin, said that the discovery was made early Wednesday morning by staff who reported to work at around 7:30. He said all the rooms were ransacked, including the church and daycare center, which is in the same building.
We reached here, we saw the gate open. When the front door here was still locked, my wife opened the door. When she opened the door now, we realized that my office and her office doors were open, and the whole place was with papers and everything was like that. We checked upstairs in the daycare. We realized that the back door was open. The door to go by the secretary was also open, and we found a mattress just by the door. So probably the person, after checking on getting everything, they lie down or sleeping, I don't know. Even in the church, they opened the pulpit and check in at the back, the band rooms. They went over there, opened all that.
According to Major Gashlin, more than 12,000 EC dollars was stolen, which was received the day before to be banked on the very day the discovery of the burglary was made.
Apparently, the person did not want nothing else than money. We had full supplies, but they didn't take any. Taking the money that the teachers supposed to get the money, the payment, because that's where we depend to pay them. So what we had here, they took from it, and also from Home League as well. So we had to, those money we have to, if we don't get them, we have to replace them. We cannot allow the teachers, to steal at that time.
The monies, he said, were stolen at a time when things are hard, noting that while it will affect the organization, their work must go on.
People come in, ask for help, and as you may know, before the eruption from the 11th of April, we've been cooking and carrying to the shelters every day. And we cook well sometimes. Most of the time we cook extra. We have to continue. It's hard to see that we are helping so much, and then to see it's happening like that. So
this is not the first time that the Salvation Army has been burglarized. Last year, its office in Calder was broken into, and according to Gashlin, the item stolen, which included a church sound system, was never retrieved. Major Gashlin, who is also a pastor, said all he can hope for is that the perpetrator or perpetrators of the stolen monies repent.
My only hope, they will get the money, and the person, I don't want anything to happen to the person, but the person will repent. That's only hope, the person will repent of the action and surrender to God.
For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
Executive Director of the SVG Environment Fund, Louise Mitchell, strongly opposed a recent application by one Rafik Dunbar to remove coral reef at Indian Bay Villa. The public notice for the application was published in the Searchlight newspaper on July 2nd, which stated that Dunbar made an application to the Physical Planning and Development Board to remove the coral reef from the beach area. In a telephone interview with SVG-TV News today, Mitchell said the idea for the application is to remove coral reef at Indian Bay to replace it with imported sand and build a barrier reef that is made out of concrete blocks across the beach area. According to Mitchell, she strongly objects to the application and that the reef is not dead, as the applicant may suggest, noting that it is very much alive.
Reef plays a very important role. The role of the reef, of course, it is the breeding ground for fish, and it's the habitat of much marine life in that area. That reef is has been studied for many years by the Fisheries Division and the National Parks Authority. And the reason why so much studies have been conducted there is that the south coast of St. Vincent is actually already a protected conservation area under the Fisheries Act, and it is the area that is slated to become the next new marine park in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a protected area. And one of the reasons for this is that this is our tourism belt. This is where, you know, most of the tourists stay when they come to St. Vincent. And as you know, tourists as well as locals enjoy snorkeling on coral reef that is teeming with fish life, which this reef is. This reef is a healthy reef. I mean, reefs all over the world are facing a degree of threat, but comparatively speaking, this is a relatively healthy reef.
Mitchell, who have been involved in environment work in SVG for the past 20 years, said that coral reefs are very important to the ecosystem and marine life, and everything must be done to protect them. She said that the SVG Environmental Fund has set up an online petition which already has garnered over 2,500 signatures.
That's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines now is that we actually have coral nurseries where we are growing our own coral under the sea, and we are replanting reefs. And I believe this is the direction that we should be heading in, not ripping up reefs. The Environment Fund, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Environment Fund, initiated that petition, and I'm the executive director of that organization. So yes, that petition was started by the Environment Fund, and we have at present over 2,500 signatures supporting the opposition to the planning application. Well, it's being circulated widely on social media. You can go to the website of the Environment Fund. You can go to, it's on Instagram. So I think it's pretty easy to find.
Mitchell is also encouraging other Vincentians to join the fight to protect their natural heritage at Indian Bay.
Well, I would just like to encourage all Vincentians to protect their natural heritage, and I believe the Indian Bay Beach is one of the few white sand beaches that Vincentians have to enjoy, and I believe that if these plans go ahead, it will actually mean that that part of the beach is going to appear to be vastly different from the rest of the beach, and it will in fact appear to be an enclave of this hotel resort, and it will appear to be a private beach. And I think we have to do everything in our power to make sure that beaches in St. Vincent and Grenadines remain fully public, fully accessible to all Vincentians. And I think this is another reason why this petition should be supported, and the application should be rejected, because it is.
29-year-old Ishmael Jack, an inmate at Her Majesty's Prisons in Kingston, passed away last Friday at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. Jack, who was serving a 3-month sentence for theft, died 3 weeks shy of his release from prison. Superintendent of Prisons Timothy Hazelwood told SVGTV News today that foul play has been ruled out in his death.
During the time that Mr. Jack was at prisons, he took sick. As a result, he was seen by the medical officer, who gave instructions that he should go to the Kingston General Hospital for several tests to be done. That was done, and as a result of the tests, he was admitted in the hospital, where he was kept in isolation. He was later taken to the Argyle Medical Facility, where he was kept there in the isolation area, and on Friday he passed away. There was no suspected foul play in respect to it.
Hazelwood described the deceased, who was from Kingston Park, as a well-behaved person behind bars.
Mr. Jack was a well-behaved inmate, and he was always willing to assist in anything to be done in prisons. He will be buried on Wednesday at the Kingston Cemetery.
The prison department is also mourning the passing of long-standing senior prison officer Angus Richards, who passed away recently. Superintendent Hazelwood said Richards, who had 20 years of exemplary service with Her Majesty's prison, passed away while on vacation, noting that he will be greatly missed.
Mr. Richards, based on my investigation and the little time that we spent together, it was a very efficient prison officer. He was very disciplined. He was punctual when come to duty, and he was very committed. He have worked in every area of Her Majesty prisons during his wonderful years of service. There is nothing bad during my stint, and for persons who worked with Mr. Richards before that was said. It was said that he was, just as I said, a dedicated person, committed, one who lead by example, and one who other prison officers should take as a guide.
The Friendly Society Act of 1843, governing the 18 friendly societies operating here in SVG, has been updated through a bill brought before Parliament this week by Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez, previously brought before Parliament by Sir Louis Straker. The bill was shaped through conversations with friendly societies and others in the banking and financial sector. According to Minister Gonzalez, the new legislation ensures that opportunities for the exploitation of friendly societies and or their contributors is minimized and appropriate sanctions be put in place for whenever there is a breach of the law. The finance minister said the update is also aimed at modernizing the way business is conducted by friendly societies, taking into consideration the requirement of the Financial Action Task Force and the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. He said it also expounds upon the friendly societies guidelines in addition to strengthening the regulatory powers of the Financial Services Authority in relation to friendly societies. Minister Gonzalez said the updates to the Act include requirements for registration, reporting of records, financial and auditing reports.
There are requirements for registration. The 1843 Act did not include substantive or clear provisions dealing with registration. Friendly societies will now be required to be registered with the FSA and will be issued a certificate of registration. Their reporting requirements: friendly societies will be obligated to maintain appropriate records and make those same records available for inspection by the FSA. There will also be new mandatory requirements for the preparation and filing of financial statements and audit reports, and some of the larger friendly societies had been doing this regardless, but some of the smaller ones were managing their affairs in a much less structured manner.
The bill includes rules on the society's investment of funds, the society's ownership of real estate, holding officers of the society accountable for the monies it holds, as well as the disbursement of funds upon members' debt.
There are rules now regarding the investment of funds and the holding of real estate by friendly societies. There's now the need for friendly societies to establish or set aside a reserve fund as required by all the other financial institutions that operate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Again, there's an obligation of officers employed by societies to account for the funds of the society, which includes the signing of a bond. The bill sets out provisions which deal with the manner in which funds are disbursed upon the death of members.
The finance minister said the bill will also address management and administration issues, among other necessary factors, which the 1843 Act did not account for.
In areas of management and administration, the 1843 Act did not address the issue of management and administration. As such, this bill will talk about election of directors, the fit and proper criteria for directors, the tenure of directors, and the duty of care to be exercised by directors. This act empowers the registrar to suspend, cancel, or liquidate friendly societies, remove officers, conduct on-site examinations, and the issue of dissolving friendly societies, the issue of dissolution, also was not dealt with in the 1843 Act, but has been specifically addressed in this particular piece of legislation.
Members on both sides of the House supported the updates to the Friendly Societies bill. Government MPs, Sabota Cease and Carlos James, shared why they have given the bill their nod, with Caesar encouraging Vincentians from all walks of life to support friendly societies, noting their survival is dependent on the support from members of the public.
As was noted by the Honourable Member for East Kingston, and this is for persons who can't say that it is the government's role alone. Lawyers out there, accountants, it might be from a community with a friendly society, knowing that they have to meet a much higher threshold in order to survive. The onus is on us to go and ensure that we assist and we help them. And also to join them. So I really want to wish this bill, very important bill, a safe passage through this honorable House. And for all Vincentians, even more when we have the passage, I really am calling on all Vincentians. Let us come together and help these friendly societies, because without our help, many will not be able to meet the new requirements.
Comments, Madam Speaker, to this bill, and I want to commend the Minister of Finance and his team and all of the persons who have worked on putting together this legislative framework that breeds a sense of freshness to friendly societies and give these friendly societies, rightly so, the legal footing in which they can stand on, the legal framework to function effectively and can be recognized. They now have that legal framework in which to stand on. This is confidence in the financial services sector. This is expressing confidence and good corporate governance generally across the board, from a government level and from across the private sector, investments and so on. And it shows that we are in touch and in tune with what's taking place across the country as it relates to matters of finance and a wider understanding of the protection of members of these societies.
Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said while they support the bill, they must see how the new legislation is going to affect the friendly societies to ensure they become more modernized to stay relevant.
I'm happy that this bill seeks to address regulation which would prevent or reduce the incidence of these realities, these things happening. I would, however, caution, and I don't know if caution is the correct word, but I would hope that we try to find some balance between regulating and not over-regulating to the point where we regulate out some of the smaller societies and even discourage the startup and operation of future societies. But I agree that in this modern time, we need to make sure that our friendly societies, indeed our financial sector, comes up to par. Once again, I just want to express my appreciation for the bill and to say that I also fully support it.
Further debate?
I would hate to see that this legislation is passed with the intention of helping friendly societies more, as it has been put here, as well protecting the contributors, the members, and that the emphasis is on enforcement and regulation and making sure that they pay, and if they don't, that they do it right, and if they don't, that they are fined and they are essentially made to comply or else pay. But the point is, we have to be realistic and see how it really is going to affect the functioning of these institutions. And if we care how it does, then to put the machinery in place to ensure that they're able to comply, but more so that the modernization is not just for compliance sake, but also to make them more relevant, more competitive, more robust as financial institutions, not just as cultural institutions in our society. That is what I would like to see. And that is why I would support the legislation on that basis.
Government has always been at the forefront tackling effectively domestic and intimate partner violence. So said Minister of Gender Affairs and National Mobilization, Orlando Brewster, who was at the time responding to a question in Parliament from opposition Senator Siobhan John on his plan and execution strategy for effectively tackling domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Brewster said that while there was no direct assessment on the impact of COVID-19 on gender-based violence and citizen security by extension, his ministry is mindful that due to the unequal social roles and responsibilities, the virus will have a different impact on women and men. He said the ministry is also cognizant that in times of crisis, women and girls may be at higher risk for intimate partner violence and other forms of domestic violence. However, the minister noted that when he first was appointed to the office, his initial plan was to identify where the ministry was as it pertains to domestic and intimate partner violence in SVG. He said the findings was good while outlining plans to tackle the issues moving forward.
Analyze by gender the differentiated rates of COVID-19 infections, its economic impacts, and the incidence of domestic and sexual violence. Recommend the continuous provision of social protection, cash transfer for vulnerable groups who are impacted economically to assist with recovery post-COVID-19. And 3, in this policy brief, it was highlighted the need to train first responders on how to handle disclosures of gender-based violence. As a result of this, Madam Speaker, the Gender Affairs Division, with technical and financial support from the Canadian government through the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, in gender project, sought to increase the machinery capacity to respond to incidents of domestic violence and support victims and survivors of this ordeal.
Minister Brewster said that the COVID-19 pandemic presented to the Gender Affairs Division a tremendous opportunity to further develop and build the capacity of its officers.
This in turn will help to strengthen our response, improve our delivery of service, and increase the visibility of the machinery in promoting gender equality and tackling domestic violence here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Madam Speaker, the ministry also launched, using a survivor-centered approach, an anti-violence campaign. This campaign includes online surveys, community consultation, and mass media campaign in collaboration with key stakeholders such as Marion House, Family Court, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, and the Attorney General Chambers. Since the beginning of 2020, the division has been working closely with Red Cross to bring awareness in sessions in various communities.
The government minister added that the volcanic eruption also provided the opportunity for his ministry to sensitize, engage, educate direct persons in shelters on domestic violence and sexual abuse.
Meaning we have to sensitize those who are in the shelters about domestic violence. We educated them about how to deal with such instances. We engage them in activities to help them to cope with this situation, and we direct them to the necessary services that they would need in order to support them. And finally, Madam Speaker, the ministry would continue our victim support program, whereby we would continue to support both victims and survivors, as well as helping perpetrators to unlearn this issue of domestic violence. Madam Speaker, domestic violence is not only a government initiative, but it is one that we need each and every one of us to be a part of.
In some COVID-19 related news now, we hear that one new positive case was reported from 100 samples processed on Wednesday, July 7, 2021. 5 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 88 cases are currently active and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,241 cases of COVID-19 and 2,141 recoveries have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. The health authorities say persons who persist in incorrect or no mask use, remain unvaccinated, and participate in mass gatherings will continue to be at risk for being infected and spreading COVID-19, and that to reduce the spread of COVID-19 on island, compliance with the protocols including the effective use of masks, physical distancing, and evidence-based recommendations to be vaccinated with the available vaccines is strongly recommended.